I call them the golden triangle of success. And these were the three biggies for me. Number one is accepting responsibility. Is when you accept responsibility, you say, I'm responsible, you eliminate most of your negative emotions. You can't blame someone else and accept responsibility at the same time. So whenever you have a problem, whenever you're angry or unhappy, just keep saying, I am responsible, I am responsible, I'm responsible.
Welcome everyone to the Brian Tracy Experience, where we show you a different and unique side of the Brian Tracy himself, interviewed by his children. The theme today is turning points. Everybody is constantly making different decisions every day, different choices, and sometimes you have to make a big decision and a big choice that literally changed the trajectory of your life. And so we would like to ask Brian, what are some of your big pivotal turning points? Like what? Now, I know there's mental ones. I don't want to talk about the mental ones just yet, like taking responsibility for your life or discovering goals. Those are things that occur to you inside your own mind. I want to talk about the things that physically happen to you that change the trajectory of your life completely. What comes to mind?
Well, the turning point early in my life was when I decided to go off and see the world, and two friends of mine and I decided that we would go to Africa. And the joke is that we thought about going to Africa because no one else had gone to Africa. At that time, everybody was going to Europe and traveling around with backpacks. So we decided we'd go to Africa and be different. We didn't ask why was it that nobody else was going to Africa, and we soon found out. And we set off, and we finally got to London, and we went to a bicycle store, and we decided we'd ride bicycles from London to Johannesburg because nobody else had ever done that before, and we'd be famous, and we could sell our story and so on. So we started off with bicycles, and we rode them all across France and all across Spain to Gibraltar. And it's geographically impossible, but all the hills were uphill, and all the wind was in our faces. So we rode and slept on the side of the road, and rode our bicycles all day and slept on the side of the road and slept in the bushes and in the grass and things like that. We finally got to Gibraltar. We were just absolutely exhausted. We'd spent all of our money just on food because we were so hungry. And so in Gibraltar, we sat, and the turning point was, do we go on or do we go back? And the turning point was, we go on. So what we did is we wrote letters. We sat there living on the beach in Gibraltar, and we wrote letters to everybody that we knew in the world and begged them for money. Please send us money, send us money. And they did. People sent us a crumb here and a crumb there. And one gentleman that was a relative of Jeff's sent us $300, which at that time was about $1,000, and transformed our lives. And with that, we bought a Land Rover, and we crossed the Straits of Gibraltar into Morocco, and we set off across the Sahara Desert, and we finally got it. It took 9 months from the time we started to the time we got to Johannesburg. The story was quite phenomenal. I've written actually 3 books, the 3 different parts of the trip, and they're fascinating books because I kept talking about the lessons that I had learned. And one of the lessons that I learned was you just never give up. You just never quit. You find a way. You go this way or that way or backwards or forwards. And the vehicle kept breaking down and we kept running out of money. What it taught me was that if you're clear about your goals and you persist, you will eventually accomplish vastly more than if you do not know where you're going or you give up.
Christina and Catherine, just to throw you guys in here, what was a turning point in your lives that Dad either encouraged or helped you, guided you through something, or maybe gave you some advice that helped you make a turning point? Do you have anything in particular?
I don't remember the exact situation, but I remember, I think it was when I was pre-med in undergrad, and I decided that because I was double majoring pre-med in psychology, and I came to a point where I felt like if I pursued pre-med and psychology, it was going to be so competitive that I was not going to be able to show up as a mother and a wife because I'd really have to just dedicate myself to my career. And I remember that I was really struggling because I'd been telling people I was going to be a pediatrician from the time I was like 9. And I remember having a conversation with Dad where I explained this to him, and I explained how like I was really struggling with it, and I just felt like I had decided to do this and I had to do it. And he said, Christina, you know, it's okay to change your mind. And I think that was such an impactful thing to be like, oh my gosh, you know what? Yeah. Like I was holding myself accountable to a decision that I had made. So of course
for yourself.
Yeah. And I think it was so liberating to be like, okay, I can change my mind. I can course correct. I can do something different. And it was just really an impactful thing because I dropped pre-med. I focused on psychology, and that really changed my path. So it was being able to change your mind and giving yourself permission to change your mind was a very important thing that I learned from Dad, for sure.
And now you have an awesome career and a beautiful family.
Yes, thank you.
I'm trying to think of a story. Maybe I'll come back to it with this question. But yeah, the changing your mind thing is definitely helpful. Sometimes we like do something because we just have decided long ago and don't really consider why. Maybe it's not the right thing.
It's like you have to be, was it neuroplastic? Just start from like zero-based thinking, Dad. You know,
Yes.
If I knew now if I knew then what I know now, would I still make the same decision? And if the answer is no, just change your mind, make a different decision.
Michael, do you have an example?
Well, I mean, as you know, Christina, when I was in my early 20s, I knew everything. And I had graduated from college, and I was like, I'm going to go into finance. And I was going to interviews at different banks. And they were basically all just giving me the same thing. They said, why don't you put down everybody that you know that you can call, and ask for money? Because you're going to need to get people to invest so you can build your book of business. But I was very focused on being like in banking, or I don't know why. And Dad said, hey, Michael, you should get a job in direct sales. And I said, what's that? He's like, that's where you you get belly to belly, eye to eye, and face to face with as many people as possible. And he's like, oh, and I've got just the thing. I've got this company that I've just done some work for, and you should really go to this interview. But long story short, I learned how to sell. I started a business and created myself a job. And then I found a company doing software sales, and they hired me to head up their sales department. And, I worked at that company for almost 18 months. And then we blew up the customer base by like 1,000%. And they were purchased by a huge international bank. And so in six years after that conversation, Dad, I got to the VP level of a bank with 160,000 employees. So you were right, because everybody else in that position was, 10, 15 years my senior.
Wow.
So that was a big turning point.
Wow. The natural tendency for human beings is to seek the line of least resistance. Seek the line of least resistance. Do what is easy rather than what is hard and necessary. So people are always looking for ways to do easy things, and 80% of people seek easy for most of their lives. It's only the top 20% of people that seek hard, difficult, challenging, are willing to take risks where there's a very high possibility of failure. And those are the people who earn, on average, according to statistics, about 10 times the average of the bottom 80%. So if you want to be successful, you have to put yourself out there. You have to take chances. You have to get up earlier. You have to work harder. You have to stay later. It's an interesting, these surveys on success are extensive. One of them shows that successful people get up at 6 a.m. and get going. Unsuccessful people get up at the very last minute possible and watch TV and then go off to work and waste 50% of their time talking to their friends. And then after work, they go out and have drinks with their friends and come home and watch TV. And then they don't understand why after 5 years, their income has gone up maybe 5% a year, maybe. And they lose their jobs, and they're the last hired, first fired, and so on. But successful people who set big goals for themselves and continue to upgrade their skills and knowledge and get up earlier, work harder, stay later. The most amazing darn thing, but all successful people fall into this category. They work harder and smarter than average people.
So what about like emotional or spiritual turning points?
Well, I had a very interesting experience, and Barbara and I had the same experience, is we started to read spiritual books, spiritual materials, and it had a profound effect on our lives. In fact, for about 10 or 20 years, we would read 1 or 2 hours every single day. We eventually built up a library of several hundred books on different spiritual things, in different religions, different approaches. Just wonderful, wonderful material. It really helped us. Because when you read spiritual material, you're much calmer, you're much more thoughtful, you're much more positive, you're friendlier with other people, you set bigger goals, you have greater confidence in your ability to succeed. It's just all good things.
I was going to say, Mom, do you want to tell us a turning point in your life? Since you're there, you might as well maybe poke your head over and share a story.
Or just any like spiritual principle. Like when I know there's some that I can share, but what do you think is like one of the spiritual principles you guys discovered that has really helped you?
Well, I learned a phrase that I have running through my head all the time, and that is, I affirm divine order in all things. And whenever there's any kind of frustration or a project that's not working well, stopping and thinking I affirm divine order in all things, it helps me to settle, and then my superconscious mind steps in and gives me the answers. And the faster that I do that and admit this is the way to do it, the faster I solve my problems. And so it's always worked 100% of the time. And that's just one.
One of the things that Dad, I started asking you about what books you like, spiritual books and stuff. And you've recommended a bunch of stuff, and we don't have to go into that. But the concept of forgiveness always resonated with me. The ability to because you realize that when you're holding on to like an anger or something, it's only happening inside your own mind. And so forgiveness is about getting rid of that seed of anger, and so it's not for the other person, it's for yourself. So that was something that you both taught me. I
had an experience. I had a person I worked for and a friend, and he's a very difficult guy. He built a fortune of almost $1 billion, then lost it all, and he was a real pushy character. Anyway, he asked me once, what sort of stuff do you read? And I said, well, my favorite book is a spiritual book called Sermon on the Mount, written by a man named Emmett Fox. And it was recommended to me by Mark Victor Hansen, the motivational speaker. And so I bought the book and I got him a copy of it. And he's a very difficult guy. He went out and bought boxes full of the books. He sent copies of this book to everybody he knew. He just loved the book. So several people have asked, what book would I recommend? Sermon on the Mount, written by Emmett Fox, who died in 1941, is the best spiritual book I've ever read. I've read several hundred of them. And so I would recommend that. Sermon on the Mount. And it's not a specific religion. It's a series of spiritual principles that will change your life profoundly.
Dad, is there anything from that book that jumps out at you? Like when you think about that book, is there a principle that resonates more than another one?
Well, there's two. Michael just talked about it. One is having faith that everything will work out. And the other is forgiveness, which is a very, very important principle. Either Sermon on the Mount or somewhere, they said that if Jesus had only taught one principle, and the principle was forgiveness, he would still be the preeminent spiritual teacher in history, because forgiveness is so important. The number one goal for all people is to be happy. And the thing that blocks us from being happy is negative emotions. And negative emotions are almost always because we're still unhappy about something that happened. And it's almost always some person. And so the ability to forgive and let it go, just let it go, and get on with the rest of your life. One of the things that I teach in my seminars for 40 years is to never become upset about something that you can't change. And you cannot change a past event. So what you do, if it has happened, you learn from it as much as you can, and then you just let it go. Just let it go. And it's amazing, because when you work in psychology, you'll find that each person who is unhappy.
So Catherine, you're studying holistic medicine. Is there like some way to leverage holistic medicine to have a turning point? Like change your mind, change your physical health, your physiology. Like what is some turning point that you had experimenting with that?
Well, I think that like when you have like health issues or frustrations, like you have to try different things, because maybe doctors haven't really helped you, and like you have to try maybe what isn't always recommended, like the basics really, which is like nutrition, vitamins, sleep, what's in your environment, like a lot of different things. So I feel like I wouldn't say it's just been one turning point for me. I would say like it's been over a long period of time, like a couple of years, of how like, you have a lot more control over your health than you think. And it's more about taking that responsibility and like being your own.
And I love that you're going in this direction, because I think there is like this new awareness that our system of modern medicine primarily focuses on just treating the symptoms instead of the actual cause of the symptoms. So they go, oh, you're feeling pain, have a painkiller, or you're having this symptom, like here's a quick fix for that symptom. But they're not going, well, why do you have this in the first place? Like,
what's the root of it?
Yeah, what's the root of it? Like, are you consuming something? Are you not getting enough exercise? Are you nutrient deficient? Do you have like a genetic thing? Like, so Tosh, I was listening to, I think it was Gary Brecka or one of these biohackers, and he was saying that 40% of women have this MTFR gene that basically inhibits them from methylating folate.
I told you about this.
Yeah, I just saw a meme recently. I know you mentioned it. So I got Tasha a methylated folate.
You can do it too, because you probably, but it can.
And well, hold on, this is kind of interesting. She's like, honestly, so the if you can't methylate folate, you have like stomach problems, and you have higher anxiety. And some other weird symptoms. And she started taking this methylated folate, and she's like, it's weird. Like I have no anxiety. I'm like really calm. I don't have the stomach issues. I mean, it was just like, okay, I think we're onto something.
It's an impaired detox process. So basically you have a reduced efficiency at a certain step based on the MTHFR mutation, but you can have several different ones in the same pathway that can cause different issues. Another good supplement for that is glutathione. Usually your production of that is reduced if you have an MTHFR mutation. Okay,
so that's a good turning point. Now let's talk about like career or business turning points. Right, you've had several jobs. You've been a merchant seaman. You've been a logger. You washed dishes. You know how to repair Land Rovers before going into the desert. So you've had all these different skill sets and professions and different jobs. What was a big turning point for you in getting into, in your career as a public speaker and author and all these things?
When I was young and poor, my first car cost $95, and the car was in such bad shape, I had to have it towed to a garage that was run by a nice old man named Dick Smith, and he was a mechanic, and we towed it down to his place, and he said, "I won't repair your car for you because you can't afford it. Hire me, but I'll tell you what to do." And so he would come over and tell us to do this and remove that and replace this and so on. And Jeff and I learned how to fix a car, repair a car, put in new clutches, change the engines, work on the carburetor. And when we were in the Sahara 2 or 3 years later, it saved our lives because we could repair an automobile. But when we talk about turning points, there's 3 for me. When I give seminars to thousands of people, I call them the golden triangle of success. And these were the 3 biggies for me. Number 1 is accepting responsibility. Is when you accept responsibility, you say, I'm responsible, you eliminate most of your negative emotions. Because you can't blame someone else and accept responsibility at the same time. So whenever you have a problem, whenever you're angry or unhappy, just keep saying, I am responsible, I am responsible, I'm responsible. The second part of the golden triangle is goals, written goals and plans that you work on every single day. I get up every morning and write out my 10 most important goals that day, and I work on my goals. And the third part of the golden triangle is continuous learning. I just finished a book called Super Learning Made Simple, and I've been working on this subject for many, many years. I finally wrote it into a book, and it's basically all the different ways that you can learn faster so that you can become more competent, more confident, more capable, that you can get more done faster than earlier. And this book, Super Learning Made Simple, tells you how to speed read, tells you how to memorize 14 different ways, shows you how to choose the proper subjects. And what I found as I was writing and rewriting the book is that it's a life changer. For you to dedicate yourself to lifelong learning means that you can do and be and have anything that you want in life, just decide what it is and then learn how to do it. And the more you learn, the more you can learn. The smarter you are, the smarter you become. And so over time, you get smarter and smarter and smarter. And you learn more and more, faster and faster. And it's like stepping on the accelerator of your own life. And remember, the average person is vastly smarter than they credit themselves for. You have the ability to learn anything you need to learn. You can learn any science, any mathematics, any complicated subject that was really difficult in school. You can learn it. One of the things I talk about is by the time you're 6 years old, you know 5,000 words. Now, there's about 1 million words in the English language, but you know about 5,000 words. Can you imagine that? Your brain is so capable. You know the meanings of 5,000 words. And by the time you become older and wiser, you get an education and so on, you probably know 50,000 words, maybe 100,000 words. That is astonishing. You can read almost any book written on any subject anywhere because you are so smart. And you don't give yourself enough credit. You don't give yourself enough credit because every word is a concept. It's an idea. And so you can actually expand the size of your mind and your ability to think and reason and decide and converse. You can become phenomenally fluent in a language. And each time you learn a word, you become more and more fluent. They say that every word leads to 10 or 15 other words over time.
You know, there's something else too about being a lifelong learner, continuing is, you know, every time you learn something new, it's also novelty, right? And novelty keeps us engaged. So whether you're, you know, learning something new about your job or you're learning a language or, you know, anytime there's new information that you are absorbing, because of the novelty, you're more present, enthusiasm to learn even more. So it's part of it, right? Like you're learning words, but you're also like, you get the dopamine hit with every new piece of information, and then you seek out more new information. But it's a way to improve your relationship. It's a way to improve your health, you know, just the constant learning and constant novelty in life.
Going back to this concept of turning points, so this could be for anyone. What is something that happened that at the time was not positive, like a negative occurrence or happenstance, but in hindsight was actually a really good thing? Do you have any of those, Dad?
Well, I had a job once where I was the chief operating officer of a $265 million company, and the owner of the company and his partner one day came into my office and said, "You're fired." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, somebody was complaining about you, and so we think that you're probably the wrong person for this job." And they fired me out onto the street. And it was, I still remember it was a real shock. And then the owner of the company came back and said, "Look, I'm going to hire you as an independent agent, and I'll pay you 3 times what I was paying you as an employee of my company." And so he gave me an assignment to develop 180 residential building lots, which I did because I knew how to do it. And so I earned more money and I became more independent. And I remember I'd been fired. It was a big deal in the city at that time. And I went out for lunch with a friend of mine, a very nice businessman, Ralph Redden. And I said, "Well, would you like to hear about my situation with this company?" He said, "Not particularly." And that was the end of it. And I realized nobody cares. You know, I used to joke, nobody cares, nobody cares, nobody cares but you.
And I think that's actually a good turning point, though, because I think everyone on this podcast, and probably several people who are listening, have had the turning point of at one point in their lives just not caring anymore what other people thought about them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like that's a really important point to get to in your life, because then you're free to make decisions without having to think about other people's opinions or criticisms or judgments.
To go back to what you said, Michael, about, you know, coming to a place of not caring what people think about you. There's another way of thinking about that, and that is that, yes, you can be very aware and self-conscious of how people feel about you or being rejected or judged. But I think the more authentic you are, the more you end up meeting and attracting people who are meant to be your people, right? You can't make everyone happy. So you just have to make the people happy that you connect with, that connect with.
No, but the way that you said that, I think I agree with that, because if you're authentically you, and then you don't have to care about what other people think. The people who don't like the authentic version of yourself are going to go away,
Right.
and
Yes.
people who do like the authentic version of yourself are going to come and want to be closer, right?
Yes. It's the same. It's just two different ways of looking at it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't care
Yeah.
what people think, or I'm going to be me, and I'm going to bring to me the people who appreciate who I am. And those are meant, I'm not going to make everybody like me.
I used to give an entrepreneurial coaching program. People would come and spend a full day with me every 3 months, and we'd have 20 or 30 people. And I would teach them a series of mental tools that they could use to be far more successful. And I guaranteed them that every one of them, if they came to my program, I charged them $5,000, would double their income and double their time off within 1 year. And if they didn't, I would give them their money back. And everybody doubled their income within 30 days. It was the most amazing thing. I never had to give a refund in 7 years. And one of the things I would start off, I would say there's only 4 ways to change your life. Number 1 is you can do more of certain things. So the question is, what should you be doing more of if you want to achieve more of your goals? If you want to have a better life, what should you be doing more? Number 2, you can do less of other things. So what should you be doing less of that's really not helpful to you? Number 3 is you can start doing something completely new and different. And you may have heard of this, you may know what it is, you may have to ask for advice, but start doing something new and different that gets you different and better results faster. And then number 4 is you can stop doing certain things altogether. And I used to teach this, and it says more, less, stop or start. More, less, start or stop. More, less, start or stop. So keep asking, what should I be doing more of? You know, if you're in sales or business, you should be spending twice as much time with customers. That's simple. That doubles your income almost immediately. Or you should spend less time in the office. Rule is there are no customers in the office. So if you're in the office, you're not working. Number 3 is start doing something completely new or different. Learn a new skill, learn a new practice, do something that increases your productivity. And finally, stop doing certain things altogether. What Michael said, zero-based thinking. If I was not now doing this, when I started doing it, if you wouldn't start doing it again today, stop immediately.
So this has been another wonderful episode of the Brian Tracy Experience. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Mom, for joining us this time.
My pleasure.
Dad, it's always a pleasure. I think this was a really interesting episode. I think we covered a lot of bases.
Thank you, Michael, for being such a good host.
대의 상점을 골라서 여러분이 직접 시험해 보도록 할게요. 보고하러 가기, 오직 당신만이 내 생일에 나를 레이싱 클럽에 초대했습니다. 나에게 데이트 신청한 사람은 내 남자친구이자 룸메이트의 사촌동생, 투의 사촌동생이다. 그러나 그는 마지막 문장을 보내자마자 탄리가 그녀 앞에서 여성이 언급되는 것을 허용하지 않았다는 사실이 갑자기 생각나서 즉시 그것을 철회했습니다. 너무 위험해서 삭제될 뻔했고 너는 묵묵히 계속해서 외쳤다. 휴대폰을 보니 오늘 청산이었는데 3시간 동안 문자 한마디도 안 했네요. 안식홍은 매우 친숙합니다. 그녀는 계속 말을 이었다. 그는 속삭였습니다. 나중에 경주에 가면 절대 이를 갈 것입니다. 오늘 밤에는 서즈데이에게 작별 인사를 하기 위해 여자친구와 함께 있어야 합니다. 저는 비꼬는 말을 하지 않을 수가 없습니다. 제 어린 여자친구가 너무 집착해서 참을 수가 없어요. 보세요. 당신은 이 스타일을 좋아해요. 내 옆에 있는 사람들도 웃고 농담했습니다. 여자들은 너무 착하고 순종적이어서 지루합니다. 결혼하기 전에는 그냥 놀러가도 괜찮지만 결혼하려면 여전히 계산적이어야 하고 전진하는 방법을 알고 후퇴하는 방법을 알아야 합니다. 옆에 있던 서즈데이의 남자친구도 그의 말에 동참했다. 최근에 레이싱 자격증을 땄습니다. 은밀히 부족하고 은밀히 품질이 부족한 경기 후에 원합니다. 차 전복될까 봐 두려워할 정도는 아니고 일부러 나를 피하려고 핑계를 찾으려고 하는 것 같았다. 즉시 공기. 반대로 탐테임은 매우 치열하게 경쟁했습니다. 게다가 화를 내는 것은 극도로 참을 수 없습니다. 이전에는 누군가 의도적으로 차를 강제로 운전했습니다. 결과 그에게 찔려 곧바로 일을 시작했습니다. 원빈의 책은 사가 하나입니다. 너무 많이 놀지 마세요. 투 선생님, 무슨 일이에요? 사촌, 당신은 그 남자, 그 두 명의 작은 남자친구 원빈 서즈데이를 걱정하고 있으며 마치 모두가 판사를 바라보고 있다는 것을 암묵적으로